Hello everybody, my name is Kelly Flores. We are actually going to be talking about a lesson that has to do with structure, building materials, and just objects and how they can be formed into new materials from what you have to create a new shape, to create something new out of it. So we're going to be utilizing the Ngss standard that says that it wants us to have the ability to make observations to construct an evidence-based account of how an object made of a small set of pieces disassembled and can be made into a new object. So with that being said, our materials we are going to be using today will be toothpicks and they will be marshmallows. Don't eat them though. I know they're tasty. All right, so I want to first let all of you guys really think about structure and what does structure mean in regards to assembling things. When I think of structures, I think of the process and how something is built. A lot of times when a building goes up, you see the frames and the metal and everything that goes into place, but it is immovable. But the beauty of structures is that there can be so many. There can be so many different representations of how shapes can come together, how different things, when taken apart, can make something new. So that is what we are going to be working with our marshmallows. So if you guys want, go ahead and click pause on the video. You can go get the materials, go get your marshmallows at home and your toothpicks, or make a quick run to the store if you don't have them. I'll wait. All right, so I'm assuming that you have unpaused the video already, and we are going to dive right into this standard. A great way that I chose the example was I was going to take a toothpick, just one really simple. We're talking about structures, so structures, I think about shapes. So my mind automatically goes to, I want to make something look like a house because that's a structure. I want something strong, something sturdy. So what I'm going to do is create a house. So obviously the base of a typical house, stick figure house, any type of house you would see when you're drawing when you're a kid, is going to be a square. So you have to create the bottom of a square. All right, so we have our square and we're going to move on. All right, let me hold this up, and another part of the square is the rooftop. So every house needs a rooftop. So I'm going to stick my triangle starter for that rooftop here, and I will need that connecting piece for the roof. And let's stick this one in here. Go ahead and take your time as you're going through this lesson, as you're trying to get your structures safe and sound. You can even create support for them. You guys can get really creative. Just make a structure that will make something. So this is my house. This is the structure that we are going to be working with. You put together a house, but the basis of our lesson is what? The basis of our lesson is in our standard that we went over. What we're going to do is account for how an object is made of a small set of pieces, and when we disassemble it, we will make that into a new object. So we are dealing with subject and matter and objects and shapes. So with our house, I'm going to see what we can make. So what we are going to do is partner with that standard and disassemble. So go ahead and start disassembling. Take your time. Don't feel like you have to rush or anything. We have plenty of time to go over all of this and really just make sure we have everything in order like we need to. So it looks like I had a total of six toothpicks I used for that. You guys might have wanted to add more support to your house, so you might have added more. That's all right. You just take them all apart. So I use 6 toothpicks, and it looks like 5 marshmallows. So now I want to represent that structure that we made from a house into something else now that I disassembled it, to represent a different shape, a different formation. So it's no longer that little house-like, building-like shape. So I will now, and you guys will follow along with me as well, we are going to pick up our first toothpick. And you know, I really think since it's science, we're doing matter and like objects, I think I want to make something circular, or try to make something circular, because we're using toothpicks, so they aren't super rounded, but you get the idea. So I'm gonna bring these all together. I'm doing this because we are doing science, and when I think circular, I'm not on the topic of a house anymore. I'm thinking science related, so my mind immediately goes to the sun, the moon, comets, all these things in the world of science that we get the opportunity to learn about here as we're going through science lessons throughout the year, I'm sure. So I'm getting close. They haven't quite connected yet, but we're almost there. All right. And so this one is my attempt at a circle. But if you look at it, it still kind of has the shape of a house. So let's add something else to make it a little fun. Just keep disassembling it. I'm gonna combine these marshmallows because I'm still using them. We're making a shape instead of that house-like shape, because the circle didn't quite work. We noticed that. So we keep persevering, and now I have, you can either view it as 2 triangles. So here's the first one, and here's the second one. Or if you look at it as a whole, it could be a trapezoid, or let's shift it a little bit, try to make it a little straighter to represent a square with equal parts if you're looking at all sides, because all sides will be equal. So all of these are great examples of really what a structure and properties of matter can look like. Even though you start with them in a different shape, you can disassemble them, pull them apart, and really get creative with it. You can figure out how to make it into a different shape. You can figure out how to really let your imagination, your creativity partner with the science behind matter and subjects, and how they just change and they reflect and they take on different shapes, they take on different forms, but they all comprised of the same basic bone structure. You know how in the beginning I had mentioned that we were talking about houses, and I mentioned when I think of just building and stuff, I think of all the buildings that people would build. And it's interesting because no matter what the frame, there will always be a frame with buildings. You always need the metal support, you need all that, but once you add all the defining features, it makes it something. But no matter what, you always need the pieces that create the structure like this. You need the things that make the square a square. So imagine if this were, we're trying to make a square and put, let's say, stucco on it. If it were a house, you would still need the bone structure to outline that square with stucco, just as much so as you would if you took this apart like we did in the beginning and started out with it looking like a house. You would still have the same basic materials, the same information that you're computing. You're just going about it in a different way and putting them together differently, but yet it's still the same material. That's what's amazing. There's so many creative things with science. There's no limits on your creativity as long as they can connect, as long as there's that ability to form something and disassemble and put it back together. You can have multiple shapes, multiple different examples of what you can achieve, and you don't even have to stop here. You can add more, you can create more. I could add more marshmallows. You can get as creative as it is, just as long as we are sticking to that standard of creating something and being able to disassemble it and create something new out of that same material we were just using. So I want you guys to really think about and ponder and reflect about these concepts and the standard that we discussed and the examples of these pieces that we used in order to represent those examples, and try to figure out ways in your day-to-day life that you can see things like this toothpick example come into play. Maybe it's something like how I discussed a building with its framework, and how each building may have different framework, but it has the same tools, it has the same concepts. It has to connect somewhere, but it may be connected differently. Look around throughout your day, be in discussion with your family, and really try to take in what is around you and what can inspire you to notice things like this about shape and matter and how they're different, but yet they're still very similar if you take them apart to their core. They are similar, but they look so different. So keep that in mind as you're going throughout your day, and as we continue to learn on this topic, continually try to reinforce these concepts throughout the week, throughout the month, because these are things that you will see forever as you continue to build and grow, and just think of life as a structure that can be formed and disassembled. There's so much you can do with this. So keep thinking about that about your day. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this lesson. Thank you guys for running to the store if you needed to for your marshmallows, or if you had some at home. Amazing. That's fantastic. With that being said, thank you guys for just joining me on this lesson. I enjoyed the time I was able to spend with you. Have a great rest of your day.